Hi, everybody. Just want to welcome you in. We're about a minute or two before we get started. This is Mary Beth Uberti with Operation Parent. I just want to welcome everybody to the webinar. As you're coming in, looks like we're loading up pretty fast here. That's great. On your control panel, there is a question section. If you don't mind, just going ahead and clicking in the box. That allows you to send a question to us, but I would just really love you to send your name and where you're from. As we welcome everybody into the webinar. So go ahead and click in that question box, the top one. Okay, I got Saba from Atlanta, Christie, Ohio. Welcome. All right, Brenda from Arizona. So just click in that question box and just send us your first name and where you're from. I have Aaron from Carolina, Joe from Kentucky, Mary from North Carolina, Regina, Arkansas, Robin, Danbury, Connecticut. I have somebody from Sarah, Shelley from Minnesota, Wendy from Kentucky. Let me just take a look through here. Jennifer from Kentucky. Emily from North Carolina. Dana, Ohio. Dee, Ohio. Christy, Idaho. Chris, Illinois. Somebody from Hawaii just went best. Caleb from Hawaii. Brittany, Nevada. A lot of Arizona people jumping on here. April from Nevada. Amy from New York, Rochester. Allison, South Carolina. Welcome. All right. Thank you so much for just doing that real quick. What I'm going to do right now is just turn over the beginning of the presentation. This is keeping a positive body image and self-esteem. So we're really excited to have you here. This is going to be a 60-minute presentation with Dr. Amy Grenemeyer. As we go ahead and get started, I'm going to turn over the controls to my associate, Michelle Massey, who's just going to go over the control panel just so you know how to work everything. And then we'll get right into the presentation with Dr. Grenemeyer. Hold on, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Michelle Massey with Operation Parent. I wanted to let you know that Operation Parent is a parent-driven organization providing comprehensive prevention, education, and support resources for parents, caregivers, and organizations responsible for raising and guiding teens and preteens. Before we get into the content, I would like to go over a few of the features of GoToWebinar. First, on your webinar control panel, you will see the orange tab with an arrow. This tab allows you to open and minimize the control panel. So just look up in the very top right-hand corner of your screen to see that arrow. If you wish to view your screen without the control panel, just click on that orange tab and minimize it. For now, please click on the orange arrow and open up your control panel and view all the features with me. Let's talk about the question feature. All attendees will be muted during the presentation today, just so we don't have any sound interference while Dr. Grenemeyer is speaking. We would, however, very much like to hear from you in the question section. So about halfway down that control panel, you'll see this section. You'll send both questions and comments here. There are 3 panels. The top panel will show you any questions that you've already posted. Below that is another light blue panel where you can type your question and send them directly to me. You can send us questions at any time during the presentation, and we highly encourage that. All questions will be answered by the end of the presentation. We may go over the 60-minute mark just a couple of minutes with the question and answer segment. So if you need to leave prior to us wrapping up, we understand. We put together some awesome handouts for you today. One is titled 4 Ways to Improve Your Body Image and Self-Esteem. The second is Developing a Positive Body Image. And then the third is a copy of today's slide and PowerPoint presentation. We sent the handouts to you prior to this webinar via your email, so check there. You may want to also double-click on the handouts while we're in session. Once the webinar has ended today, you will not be able to download the handouts from that location. But hopefully from one of those two avenues, you'll get the handouts and be able to utilize them after our presentation. We are recording this presentation and it will be sent to you tomorrow afternoon. A certificate of attendance will automatically be sent to all attendees who are live with us today. The certificate will be attached to the follow-up email you will receive 24 hours after this live event. There will be a short survey sent to you directly after the webinar. It takes about 2 minutes to complete. If you have time, we always utilize and very much appreciate your feedback. Now I would like to turn this webinar over to Dr. Grinemeyer. We are so excited that she could spend some time with us today and that we can learn together.
Good afternoon. I'm so glad you all joined us today, and I loved hearing where everyone was from. It's amazing. People are from all over the country, and that's so important that we create a united front helping young people develop healthy body images and prevent things like eating disorders. I'm a licensed psychologist in Louisville, Kentucky, and I specialize in women's issues, including body image, and pregnancy and postpartum adjustment. I do a lot of psychological testing and educational testing as well. I'm also the owner of a practice called Compass. We are one of the largest practices in Louisville and have 13 clinicians at this point and 5 students who are with us as well. Also in my practice, we have 2 different therapy dogs. I have a therapy dog in my office named Lucy, who's about a 50-pound lab mix who was rescued. She has this innate gift of calming people when they're anxious and works so well with my clients when they come in. We also have a 3-pound teacup Yorkie on staff, and he runs the show around here. My dog is terrified of him, so it's kind of a goofy mix, but people find it very helpful to have the animals in-house too. So today we're going to be looking at a bunch of different constructs, including body image, self-esteem, and eating disorders. I'll give you kind of the technical definitions and some examples of how they present. We'll also look at current trends and misconceptions that people have about these issues. The third objective is looking briefly into the media impact on body image and eating disorder development in teens and tweens. Social media has also become a very powerful influencer of our children, and also the family and friends of the kids. And then we'll also look at how parents and other supportive adults can help prevent these issues and what you can do next if you worry that someone you know is going through these kinds of problems. So what are we dealing with here? Body image and self-esteem, as well as all the different types of eating and body-related issues, are all on a continuum of health on one end and dysfunction on the other end. There's the most severe case and there's the mildest case on the other end. And so when we talk about it, it's important to keep that in mind, that even if someone doesn't have the most severe case of an issue, it doesn't mean that they're not profoundly impacted. And body image and self-esteem also are on that continuum from healthy thoughts about oneself all the way to less healthy and even dysfunctional thoughts. Going on to the next slide, we'll be first looking at anorexia nervosa. Anorexia is probably the most commonly thought of eating disorder that is present, and it's characterized by disturbances in the way that a young person views themselves in terms of body weight and shape. Generally, people with anorexia refuse to maintain a healthy body weight because they view themselves as being very much overweight, and their body shape is distorted when they look in the mirror. And Mary Beth, if you can go ahead and advance that slide. They also tend to deny that they're having a problem with their low body weight. They tend to minimize the impact to their physical health. They may or may not purge excess calories that they eat. It varies by person and sometimes varies by stage of the issue that they're going through.
Hold on. Hi, everybody. And I have to apologize, Amy. We had a power surge here and it shut
Okay.
us down completely. So let me get everything back to where we were.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm trying to, and it's telling me there is no presenter. Okay, well, that's interesting. Hold on. Oh, Lord. Let me think here. Why is this not doing this? Come on, show my screen. You can't see anything, right, Amy?
No, I can see this slide. What are we dealing with here?
Okay, let me do this over here and see if you can see what if I can make this go from that and go from there. Can you see that?
It has not changed.
All right, so you can't, if I click here and let me just, can you see anorexia?
No.
Okay.
Now I have my handouts, and if people wanted to pull up their PDF versions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. What's happened is when we took that hit here, we've never had it happen before. Everything went down here and rebooted, and it rebooted us into the live event. But I would need everybody to leave and come back in, and I don't want to do that. So if everybody could get out their handouts or download them now, and I'm just going to have Dr. Grenemeyer continue. I'll continue to try to fix this as best as I can and see if we can get everything moving. Okay, so we were at what we are dealing with here. So if you want to go ahead, and I'm going to try in the background to fix this. Okay.
Sounds good. I think I'm the jinx. The last time I gave a presentation on performance anxiety, the PowerPoint wouldn't work. And so it was kind of trial by fire.
Right.
So
Okay.
we were talking about anorexia. The last hallmark of anorexia that I often see is an intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat. And these young people, whether it is a boy or a girl, oftentimes start complaining about that fear of becoming fat, and that may be the first thing that alerts family members or friends that there may be something going on. So warning signs, oftentimes young ladies will lose their menstrual period due to the malnutrition of anorexia. They tend to diet obsessively and think about food a lot. They talk about food, they talk about cooking. They may actually become very good cooks but not eat what they cook. They generally deny being hungry, and my experience with my clients who have anorexia is that they don't get hungry. The body shuts those hunger centers down to minimize the pain. Oftentimes they weigh multiple times a day. That's one of my first recommendations for families is get the scale out of your house. It's just toxic for some people. And oftentimes these individuals become very active. They exercise too much. They may insist on standing or pacing while they're studying or doing other activities around the house. They may develop some strange food-related behaviors, such as cutting food into tiny bites or just pushing it around their plate. Rapid weight loss, always feeling cold, depression, on and on are more of the symptoms. And your slides will talk a little bit more about, show you a few more of those symptoms. But we'll move into bulimia nervosa, which is another common eating disorder. They tend to alternate between rapid binges of food and eating lots and lots of calories at one setting. This isn't just overeating at Thanksgiving until you're stuffed kind of eating. It's all in a very short period of time, and it's much more food than most people would eat in the same amount of time. And generally, they feel completely out of control of their eating during that episode. Even if they want to stop, they feel powerless to stop themselves. Then once those calories are consumed, typically someone with bulimia will do inappropriate behaviors to prevent weight gain, such as purging or overuse of laxatives or diuretics or exercise. And like people with anorexia, their belief about themselves is overly influenced by what they weigh. So loved ones who see someone expressing significant concern about their weight, having strict dieting, alternating with eating binges, secretive eating, or running off to the bathroom after meals, hiding food or stealing food, those are important things to watch for. I've had clients before who have gotten picked up for shoplifting because they were stealing food to fuel one of their binges. And sometimes in the later stages of bulimia, you'll notice that the person has hey, there's my slides. Perfect. That's one more and we're right where we need to be. Sometimes they'll have very puffy cheeks or they'll have a lot of dental decay, and that's because the acid from their stomach is irritating the lining of their cheeks and taking away the enamel from their teeth. So if parents or loved ones see these behaviors, it's time to step in. I'll briefly touch on the next couple things. Binge eating disorder is similar to bulimia, except the calories don't get purged. They're binging on high-calorie foods in a very quick amount of time, and they often feel significant disgust and hatred of themselves for having done so. The warning signs also include secretive binges and hoarding their food or stealing food. And oftentimes, just like anorexia and bulimia, there's depression and anxiety that come along with it. Compulsive exercise is often used to purge calories for people with an eating disorder. Oftentimes, it's in search of having a perfect body, and the exercise keeps going even long after they've been hurt or they're fatigued. They feel intense guilt if they don't finish their workout. I've had clients before who exercise 5, 6, 7 hours a day and very intense bouts of exercise while they're doing that, all while eating 400 or 500 calories a day, and yet they're still never satisfied. Body dysmorphic disorder is akin to these issues. It's more of an obsessive compulsive issue as well, and a person becomes obsessed with a perceived flaw or defect. Sometimes I see this in terms of weight, but generally it's a physical feature or flaw, such as a small scar or a bump on their nose or things like that. And it can lead to compulsive behaviors including plastic surgery to make those flaws that they see different. The several people that I have on my caseload right now with body dysmorphic disorder, out of the 3, 2 of them have had surgery and they're still not happy with the results. And they've had multiple surgeries and are still not happy. So those are kind of what we're dealing with that are in relationship to self-esteem. And it's when self-esteem and feelings about oneself go completely to the other end where we don't want it to go, oftentimes we see these disorders develop. Current trends, right now it varies depending on the study, but researchers find between 1% and 5% of teens will be diagnosed with an eating disorder. Generally, we see numbers around 1% for young men and boys, but those numbers tend to be growing, particularly among the gay and bisexual communities. We see eating disorders often kick off somewhere between 12 and 13. And oftentimes when someone has an eating disorder, their ability to function fully academically and socially and within their family, it declines. Generally, the people I have worked with in the past with eating disorders all report suicidal ideation. Going on to the next construct is body image. And this is kind of the foundation of the eating disorders. And body image is really how someone feels about how they look. Their beliefs, their thoughts, feelings, and how they behave related to their appearance. It can be negative, it can be positive, or somewhere in between on that continuum. It is related to self-esteem, and body image has learned and unlearned elements. So self-esteem is confidence and satisfaction in oneself. Now that can be body esteem. It can also be tied into other aspects of a person's identity and sense of self. Self-respect, self-confidence, self-competence in terms of how competent and able someone feels they are. Self-efficacy and self-reliance also play into that self-esteem. I see a lot of difficulty in self-esteem in my practice with young adults because of the self-reliance factor. Generally, parents these days don't let their kids do a whole lot. It's easier to schedule all their appointments for them and easier to do their laundry for them. And then the teen or young adult leaves home and they feel like they don't know how to do anything, and they often develop a lot of anxiety related to that, and their self-esteem continues to be lowered. So when someone has low self-esteem, they have a hard time determining how they're feeling except for how they feel in that moment. So if they're having a bad day, their opinion of themselves is low across the board. They need positive experiences outside of themselves, like compliments from others or getting a good grade on a test, in order to counteract those negative self-beliefs. And when they do get the positive affirmations, they tend to be temporary in how well they help somebody feel better. So those characteristics on the opposite side of high self-esteem, they accurately can assess their own strengths and weaknesses. They can recognize that they have self-worth as a human being, and just because they're having a bad day or are struggling in one subject area, they know that that doesn't influence who they are as a person and their worth as a person. People with high self-esteem tend to be less punitive towards themselves than do people with low self-esteem. Self-esteem in the family. The family is where this all starts, and that's why parents are so important. Families where a child is listened to and spoken to respectfully set the stage for a child with healthy self-esteem. Getting appropriate attention and affection, not too much attention, not being spoiled, but enough attention so that they know that they're a valuable member of their family. Having accomplishments recognized, not over the top, and when they do make mistakes and failures, acknowledge those and accept them without berating a child. Oftentimes I see in families with children with low self-esteem, there's a lot of name calling. I have been just stunned at how horrible the names are that I hear parents call their children. And they're very harshly criticized for minor faults, for big things that they've done wrong. And this really hits hard on a child. Being ignored or teased and ridiculed by family members over and over can be detrimental. Playful teasing here and there is one thing, but when a child starts to say, "That's not funny, it's hurting my feelings," respecting that limit that the child's trying to set and ending the teasing is important. Children are expected to be perfect and never make mistakes, never make a B, those kinds of things really have struggles with their self-esteem because it's impossible for them to be perfect and they will always feel like a disappointment. And then when they get messages from their parents that if they've lost a game or missed the big play at their game, it's a failure of who they are, or if they've gotten a B- on a test, or whatever it is that they've done, the child will internalize those messages as a judgment upon who they are, not just about that event. Childhood experiences can also lead to some detriments in self-esteem. Things like abuse and other kinds of trauma can also impact someone. What puts a child at risk is, first off, a genetic predisposition. We know that things like anxiety and depression tend to run in families. And so if you know in your family history there are mental health issues, it's important to install some resiliency in the child to help counteract that. Temperament is another factor. Some children are just naturally, they tend to have an anxious temperament. They tend to be worrywarts from very early on, and that can lead to other emotional issues down the road. Family members and significant others who are critical often create issues. I see this oftentimes in dating relationships for teenagers. Many young people get in very controlling, emotionally abusive relationships where they're put down frequently, and this can lead to bigger problems. Friends, coworkers, and other people obviously play a role. Sexism, weightism, racism, all the isms. If it's toxic in the community setting, that is going to play a role on how the child views themselves. There's also a construct called the Western thin ideal, which in the Western cultures, there is a tendency for thin to be equated with beauty. That isn't consistent across the world, but that Western thin ideal can be taken too far with Photoshop and other manipulations of what a child sees. And they begin to believe that it's attainable to be a certain size that maybe is not realistic. And that can lead to a decrease in their body image and self-esteem. So how do we prevent it? First off, early intervention is the key when it comes to prevention and treatment. The earlier we start talking about these issues with children and presenting healthy images to them, the better we are. Preschoolers are already developing cultural ideals of what is good and bad, what is normal, based on the images that they see in the media. And in the Western culture, we've done research that shows when children are shown pictures of people who are overweight, they tend to negatively evaluate those people. And these are preschoolers. So if we show a multitude of shapes and sizes and colors in people in the media, that's going to help shape what a child sees as normal, because the more you see of something, the more normal it becomes. Providing accurate education and information is important, and avoiding scare tactics. Children and humans in general don't generally respond long-term very well to scare tactics. And modeling is so important in the home, because a child's parents or guardians are their first example of what is normal. How a parent behaves, how a parent talks about themselves and others, educates a child from day one on what is normal and acceptable. Even if the parent is unhealthy, they can still model behavioral change. Recently, my daughter who is 13, asked me why I thought I was fat or something along those lines. And I was startled by her question because I really didn't think I had conveyed that. But over time, she had picked up on little comments here and there, me complaining when my jeans wouldn't zip right or whatnot, that I didn't like the way I looked. And so I had to own that. This is my field, and I'm modeling for my daughter exactly what I taught against. And so talking to her that, okay, every time you notice me saying something negative about myself, I want you to call me out on it. And she has. And that behavior has started to decrease because now I'm being more mindful of what I'm communicating to her. And hopefully she can see that my unhealthy behavior is changing, and that models to her that she can change unhealthy behaviors too. Getting to know kids' friends is very important. If your child's friends are unhealthy or engaged in unhealthy behavior, your child is at greater risk for these behaviors themselves. They mimic their friends, and if the role model isn't doing what they need to be doing, that can be a problem. Media literacy is also key. Know what your children are watching. Watch it with them. My kids spend a lot of time on YouTube, and as much as it pains me sometimes to watch the ridiculous things they're watching, I try to spend time each week watching with them so that I know the kind of media they're consuming. And if I see unhealthy images in what they're doing, I can talk to them about it. I generally don't ban them from it unless it's obviously disturbing or inappropriate, but just to point out to them, hey, did you notice how those people behaved towards that other person? What do you think about that? It's an important way to open the dialogue on healthy behavior. A few years ago, Dove came out with the campaign for Real Beauty, and you can still locate their videos online. They had a lot of really great videos that showed how Photoshop can take people and change the way they look drastically to help young people understand that the images they're seeing those images aren't necessarily correct. Killing Us Softly is another great series by Jean Kilbourne, who goes into media literacy and body image and self-esteem. And then the Center for Media Literacy is another great resource in this area. So prevention and personal growth, we have to start challenging that Western thin ideal. Even since I've become a psychologist in the last 16 years, I've seen somewhat of a shift towards more healthier body shapes and more diverse body shapes in the media. But the thin ideal is still prevalent in the fashion industry and fashion magazines, which a lot of particularly young ladies read. Stigmatization of obesity is an epidemic in this country. Challenging that idea that people of various sizes are one is better than the other because of their size is crucial. There is a racism connection that we cannot overlook when it comes to stigmatization of people and determining what is, quote, normal. Self-esteem is steeped in how people feel about themselves in terms of race and culture. And then the fallacy that there is some magical happy pill out there that's going to make it all better, or the perfect purse or pair of shoes will suddenly make someone happy or popular, or in the case of eating disorders, that there is a weight that they can reach that they will be happy and satisfied with themselves. I have yet to meet someone with an eating disorder who lost the 5 or 10 pounds they set out to lose and then felt like that was enough. It's never enough when it comes to eating disorders. So challenging the idea that you can't be happy at a certain weight, or you can't be healthy at a certain weight. Health is on a continuum, and it doesn't have to just be one certain way. Challenging the notion that reducing is the only source of a young lady's power, that the only control they have in their lives is in what they eat and don't eat. For most of my clients with eating disorders, control is a huge issue. And one thing we can control in our lives is food. And so for many of them, their belief that they can't have a say or control in any other area of their life underlies some of their eating issues. Giving young people a voice so that they can have those self-efficacy beliefs is crucial. The Me Too movement has come out and made a significant impact in people knowing they have the right to speak out against their own abuse and harassment. And that can impact someone's self-esteem as well, just knowing they have a safe place to talk. We also have mixed messages, particularly for women, that they need to be the good girl all the time, but then they also need to be a vixen. And it's very hard for some teens to find that balance. But talking about these issues and concerns is key, particularly at home. So another way I work with clients in terms of prevention and personal growth to help increase self-esteem is to increase their emotional awareness. Daily mood tracking is important. Oftentimes I give people a long list of different feeling words and help them figure out exactly how they're feeling at certain points in the day and how those feelings translate into their behaviors. I usually tell people to keep the acronym HALT in mind. Never let yourself get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, HALT, Because when we're any of those, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we tend to make poor decisions. We've all seen the Snickers commercials where people just aren't themselves because they're hangry. And there's a lot to be said for that. And so if someone's blood sugar is too low because they're not eating properly, they're not going to be thinking clearly, and they're not going to behave in the way that they normally would. I tell parents to give a child permission to feel all their feelings and to express all their feelings. When someone comes into my office and I ask how they're doing and they tell me fine, I know they're lying to me. Fine means freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. F-I-N-E. Fine is the one word that we have developed to not have to answer honestly to that question of how we're doing. So if your kids tell you they're fine, see if you can get a little more information into what fine means for them. It's important when kids have a certain emotion that they can express that, even when it's anger. Many children are raised to feel like they can't become angry at their parents, lest they'll get in very significant trouble. But it's important that they know that they can get angry with people they love. That's part of healthy relationships. And so I tell my kids a lot, it's okay that you're angry with me. You just have to be respectful in how you communicate that to me. Slamming doors is not respectful. Shouting at me is not respectful. So even as a psychologist, I'm winging it with my own kids. I can help people with theirs, but my own are their own ball of fun some days. But it's important that they know they can have all the feelings that they're feeling, and it's okay to express those. I also help people to realize their own intellectual power. It's good to be smart. It's good to be talented. And sometimes in our culture, smart kids are classified as nerds and dorks, and they're kind of pushed to the side and may not be part of the popular crowd if their talent lies in their intellect. So oftentimes I help young people connect with that intelligence and be proud of that intelligence, because one day it'll be a really good resource for them. I also help people who don't believe that they're smart gain more self-confidence in their abilities. Everybody has strong points and weak points, and focusing on their strengths is crucial. Physical power and awareness is also important in the work I do for self-esteem and self-efficacy. Teaching people healthy body boundaries, particularly those who have been victims of assault or abuse. From the time of their abuse on, those people did not feel like their body boundaries mattered. And so teaching safe physical touch is important. I recommend to families never force a child to hug a relative. That is not good for them because they don't learn their boundaries with their body then. Self-defense courses or martial arts can help, and even the most physically awkward kid become more aware of their body and physical power. Athletics and sports are great for that too. Also acknowledging limits, knowing when somebody's physically or mentally tired and just needs to implement self-care. Taking mental health days can be important for adults and kids as alike. Goal setting. We can increase someone's self-esteem by helping them to set realistic goals and then watching them achieve it. Whether those are short-term goals that are going to happen in the next couple days, or middle range goals, or longer term goals, or even bucket list goals that won't happen until they're retired, helping them to work towards things and succeed on their own gives them great sense of self-worth and efficacy. I recommend to parents to avoid pressuring statements and making decisions bigger than they are. I work with a lot of young adults, high school seniors, who are picking colleges, and they're told that the college they choose will shape everything in their life. And if they don't pick the right college, then they're going to have a miserable life. They'll never meet somebody and get married, yada, yada, yada. Well, it's really not that big of a deal. Yes, it's a big decision. But I always tell them, you're picking where you're going to go to college for the first semester. If you get there and you don't like it, you can pick someplace else and transfer. Helping to kind of reel those decisions in can give someone a greater sense of personal power. The power of positive psychology, I'll briefly touch on that. Get laughing. People in my office laugh a lot, whether it's at my goofy dog or at ridiculous things that I do on a fairly frequent basis, like wearing mismatched shoes. For some reason, that was a trend this summer because I have similar sandals in different colors. But having people laugh is really important. A lot of anxious people expose themselves to media that isn't positive and isn't uplifting. If we watch the news right now, we're not going to go away feeling very good. Personally, I avoid as much news coverage as I can because in my day-to-day work, I hear a lot of really negative things, and I just don't need more negativity. There's an app called Good News, and it's just good news. It's heartwarming stories that make you realize the world isn't a horrible place. Almost everybody I see gets to go online and get that app for free to help them get more positivity in their life. Gratitude journals are very helpful. Research has proven this, as are daily affirmations and acknowledgement of good things between family members. A lot of my work is centered in changing thinking that can lead to changes in feelings. We look at what's rational and what's not. I help people to catch negative thinking and challenge that with, is this true? And then change those feelings. I also do something I call the Anso Technique. So when someone comes in and they are talking about this awful thing that might happen, I'll say, and so, well, then blah, blah, blah might happen. And so, well, then blah, blah, blah might happen. And I keep going with this of, okay, and then what happens? Until they get to the point where they realize not much really actually happens. And in most cases, a lot of their worries are catastrophized, and their worst case scenario probably isn't going to happen. Relaxation strategies are another great way to help reduce anxiety, which is going to help someone feel better about themselves overall. When it comes to eating disorders, my first step is always to get people off the scale. Their physician can weigh them however often the physician wants to do that, but they don't need to be weighing frequently. And then I'll teach techniques like progressive muscle relaxation, guided imagery, meditation, mindfulness. All of those are very good, and there are a lot of really good free apps that people can download that will talk them through all of this. Coloring has been found to help people get into more of a meditative state of relaxation, as has bubble blowing. Researchers discovered that when we blow soap bubbles, just like little kids do, the breathing pattern of the deep inhale and the slow controlled exhale is exactly what we want in meditative breathing. So for people who are very anxious and can't shut their heads off and struggle with just slowing down to deep breathe, I get out the bubbles and we blow a lot of bubbles around here, and it tends to be very relaxing. Treatment options, there's always outpatient therapy. That's my specialty area. Working with a counselor, psychologist, therapist is very important. For someone with an eating disorder, making sure that they're medically stabilized might require residential or inpatient treatment, and then keeping them in a healthy place in maintenance. Sometimes medications are needed, and different types of medicines like antidepressants, anti-anxiety, or atypical antipsychotic medication can be very helpful if the eating disorder, depression, or anxiety is extreme. Family support is also key. Kids don't live in a bubble. They live in a family system. And so sometimes I encourage family counseling for the whole family at the same time I'm working with just the teen or tween. It can also help ease guilt and reduce the blame game among family members when one person in the family isn't healthy at that point. Couples counseling can help parents cope, or just individual counseling for parents. As the mom of a teen and a preteen, it's stressful to be a parent, and going to therapy is key for sanity sometimes. Getting support from extended family members if possible, or family of choice. The friends are important to be able to confide in when your child is struggling. And then making sure sibling needs are being addressed. Oftentimes, the healthy sibling gets overlooked when someone in the family is struggling with something like an eating disorder. Adjunctive treatments that can help with eating disorders and body image issues as well. Nutritional therapy, massage and acupuncture, personal trainers. Equine therapy is very, very effective for body image issues and body awareness. And can't talk. There's also some research about craniosacral therapy and chiropractic that can be helpful. My theory is if it's working, keep doing that. When it comes to treatment, don't try to make it all better. There's no easy way to fix any emotional issue with a magic wand or magic pill. When it comes to eating disorders, the median recovery time is 6 years. That's a long time. It's going to take a long time to get somebody healthy who's been sick for a long time. That's why early treatment and prevention is so crucial. Offering a menu of different treatment options for people tailored to what they need and at the stage of treatment that they are is important. Also, putting the responsibility for staying healthy on to them. Figuring out what recovery means for that person. It may be different than what the parent has in mind, but that gives them a greater sense of power that they can choose pieces of that treatment and recovery process. Emotional pain is like muscle building. It's like going to the gym. If you go lift weights, it's going to hurt and you're going to be sore for some time afterwards. It's the same thing when you're dealing with adversity in life. You're going to be sore and it's going to hurt, but it builds character, it builds resilience, it builds self-esteem. There's a good book called The Blessings of a B- and The Blessings of a Skin Knee, and they're both about allowing a child and a teen to fall down and get hurt or to not get the best grade because that adversity builds character for them. I know I've gone pretty quickly through it all, but this is a good time to ask questions if you have them.
Yeah, Dr. Grunemeyer, thanks so much for being so patient today. And you're right. I was thinking about the first time you ever came and did a presentation with us, and we were back at our old building, and we had a tornado come through. Do you
Oh my
remember that?
goodness! Now that you say it, I think it's me. I swear.
And we ended up going from one room to a tiny little kitchen with 50 people. And
I
you did a
remember.
great job, and you kept talking away. So it was
It's kind of hard to get me to stop talking. So yeah. No, I have a friend who jokes that I was Genghis Khan in a past life, and I'm just paying for it now. So, this is just part of that.
Well, if you have any questions for Dr. Grenemeyer, this is a perfect time to ask them. I'm just going to go through a few more slides with everyone, and then we'll come back to the questions, okay? Just so everybody knows, this is in your handouts for the slides. This is how you can get in touch directly with Dr. Grenemeyer. If you want to stay in touch with Operation Parent, we just encourage you to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Sign up for our e-newsletter. Many of you are already there, and you can do that also through our survey. There'll be a question there, and we'll make sure you get signed up. Take a look at our parent handbooks, and if you want to host a community presentation, please get in touch with us. I do presentations to parents and community members, businesses all throughout the community and across the country, and just continue to attend our webinars. You can order our parent handbooks online. Please go to operationparent.org and then go to our resources, and you'll see them there. And just so you know, our next webinar is going to be on Tuesday, February 5th at 2 p.m. again with Dr. Stephen Van Zoik. I'm sorry, I put two Vans in there, didn't mean to. And Karen Lawrence. And it's going to be a conversation between the two about anxiety and depression in children. So just encourage you to go ahead and sign up for that. And let me just go back here real quick and let me start giving you the questions, okay?
Okay.
All right. Here we go. First question is, can you please define self-efficacy again? Would you mind doing that?
Absolutely. When I think of self-efficacy, it's a person's belief that they are capable and able to solve their own problems.
Okay. And then the question is here is if one child has an eating disorder, what is the likelihood of a sibling having it?
Well, in twin studies, we see a higher incidence in identical twins. We don't necessarily see that higher incidence as often in siblings. So
Okay.
there is still a chance they could develop it, but it's not a guarantee.
Okay. If someone is recovering from an eating disorder and is at a healthy weight but still has fears about gaining weight, how can that fear be erased?
I don't think the fear actually ever goes away personally. Most of the people I've worked with always have something small in the back of their head. They learn how to keep that voice more quiet and to ignore it when it pops up. So I work with people in terms of when we talk about recovery, yep, we get you to a healthy weight and you're maintaining that. And then it's how do you deal with the zingers that your brain throws in there? The faster you can dismiss those thoughts and fears, the healthier you are. But I think they're going to pop up from time to time, particularly when you're stressed.
Okay. How do you stay on top of new research?
Oh, gracious, poorly. These days, poorly. I subscribe to a number of online journals and whatnot that come up in my feed, and I read a lot of headlines and abstracts.
Okay. Is it common to struggle with substance abuse and eating disorders? I have found it very common.
I have too, particularly in the older teens. Many young people end up using substances as a way to kind of numb out, and they do that with or without the eating disorder. But when trying to control their life with their food intake isn't working well, oftentimes they'll be using substances to numb themselves, or they're using things like stimulants and nicotine, which is also a stimulant, to keep from being hungry.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. What are the names of the books that you mentioned about messing up and for parents or for teens and tweens? Yeah, I'm going to write that down, and I'll also put it in the follow-up email that they'll get tomorrow. So go ahead again.
Sounds good. The one for younger kids is The Blessings of a Skinned Knee, and the one for older kids is The Blessings of a B-.
Okay. And then older is B-. Okay. And that's the same author, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so too. I think I've read the of the B- one before. Okay, and I'll put that into the email. Tomorrow you'll get the follow-up email around 3 o'clock. That'll contain this recording, and I'll make sure I also put in there the name of the books and the author. Okay, last question that I have. How is gender dysphoria related to body image issues that you've discussed today? In particular, is it a similar characterization of how a young person views themselves and their body?
I think there are similar elements, but it's also, it has its own set of, I can't think of a different word than element. It's got its own aspects to it. A lot of the people that I have worked with that have gender dysphoria are very focused on their physical appearance as it appears in the gender they were born as, but don't feel that way. And so working on acceptance of things that they can't change and things that they can is a piece of the work that we do. And challenging the automatic thoughts that come as part of that can play a role. In particular, particularly for people with gender dysphoria, having family support is crucial. It mitigates so many of the risk factors for depression and anxiety.
All right. Well, that is the last question. I don't see anything else in here. I just wanted to say thank you so much, everyone, and Dr. Grenemeyer for being great when we had our power surge here and took everybody out. But the recording will come out. Unfortunately, the recording will have that dip in there, and we'll try to catch it later and try to take that out in the final recording that we'll put up on our website, but that won't be for a few months. But everybody will receive this recording, and thank you again, Dr. Grenemeyer, for all the great information.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it, and have a great day, everybody, and hope to see you at the next webinar.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.